Have you ever experienced a moment where you looked back on the past 12 months and felt an overwhelming sense that everything had been utterly squandered? Perhaps you watched your carefully laid plans crumble, your dreams dissolve into disappointment, and your efforts seemingly lead nowhere, leaving behind only the bitter residue of regret and missed opportunities. What if someone told you that this year you perceive as wasted wasn't actually wasted at all, but rather an integral component of a carefully orchestrated divine strategy designed to bring about an extraordinary transformation in your life? In the coming moments, you'll discover 7 profound indicators that reveal how the divine is preparing to restore everything you believed was permanently lost. These aren't merely superficial signs or wishful thinking, but rather life-altering revelations that, once recognized, will help you understand that the restoration you've been longing for is far closer than you might imagine. The initial indication that divine restoration is approaching manifests as an inexplicable sense of tranquility that persists even when surrounded by complete disorder and turmoil. This particular form of peace differs fundamentally from the temporary calm that the world offers. It isn't characterized by the absence of difficulties or a sudden perfection of all circumstances in your existence. Instead, this peace represents something infinitely more profound, a supernatural serenity that floods through your very being even as everything around you appears to be disintegrating. This tranquility isn't rooted in external conditions, but rather stems from an internal divine presence. It embodies the concept described in ancient scriptures about peace that surpasses all human comprehension, a peace that guards both heart and mind. When the divine prepares to restore what has been lost, the process invariably begins with internal preparation of the heart. Restoration doesn't commence with financial recovery, career advancement, or even the mending of relationships. It originates within the individual, which explains why this profound peace serves as the first sign. The divine understands that restoration cannot be properly handled until one achieves peace with their current circumstances. This peace emerges at the moment of complete surrender, when the desperate need to control every aspect of life is finally released and placed into higher hands. It represents a supernatural assurance that even without visible evidence of how situations will resolve, there exists an unwavering trust that divine forces are already orchestrating events behind the scenes. You might wonder how it's possible to experience tranquility when chaos reigns supreme, especially after losing an entire year or more to setbacks, failures, and squandered opportunities. The explanation lies in understanding that divine peace doesn't depend on what has been lost, but rather serves as a harbinger of what approaches. It functions as a message indicating that everything stolen or lost is about to be restored. This peace becomes an anchor for the soul during the fiercest storms. Consider the biblical account of a teacher sleeping peacefully in a boat while his disciples panicked during a violent storm, only to rise and command the tempest to cease with simple words. This exemplifies the caliber of peace experienced when restoration approaches. It's a peace that defies logical explanation to observers, who may marvel at how someone can remain so composed while their world seemingly crumbles. This peculiarity represents the entire purpose. This peace serves as a divine signal indicating presence, control, and the imminent transformation of wasted time into powerful testimony. The second indication emerges when doors of opportunity begin swinging open, opportunities that weren't pursued or chased after through conventional means. This represents one of the clearest ways divine forces signal active movement in someone's life. Suddenly, doors that appeared permanently locked for years start opening effortlessly. The crucial element here is that these opportunities don't result from personal striving, networking efforts, or individual capabilities. They arrive directly through divine favor. When the divine prepares to restore lost elements, events are orchestrated in ways that exceed human planning capabilities. These opportunities aren't random occurrences, but rather divinely appointed moments. Without knocking on these doors, they open. Without seeking these connections, people suddenly seek you out. This serves as confirmation that higher powers are at work, positioning you for something greater than what was lost. Consider the biblical figure who spent years imprisoned, seemingly abandoned by hope, until a single moment transformed his entire existence. He didn't pursue the opportunity to stand before royalty or network his way into positions of power. Divine arrangement created that moment of favor, demonstrating how rapidly circumstances can reverse when the decision is made to open doors. The transition from dungeon to palace occurs not through personal effort, but because divine timing for restoration has arrived. This represents a critical understanding. When the struggle in personal strength ceases, divine movement begins on your behalf. When doors are opened by higher powers, no human force can close them. Perhaps the previous year or longer was spent attempting to force situations, pushing forward with plans only to encounter constant resistance. However, when restoration of wasted time approaches, opportunities flow effortlessly because they align with a greater plan. Another significant aspect involves how these opportunities often align with calling or purpose in unexpected ways. Focus may have been directed toward one particular path, only to discover that divine intervention opens doors in completely different directions, ultimately proving more aligned with authentic purpose. This represents not merely restoration, but expansion of reach and influence. When doors begin opening that weren't pursued, hesitation should be abandoned. Recognize this as indication that everything once thought lost is about to be restored. These opportunities accelerate the forward journey, ushering in seasons of favor and fulfillment beyond imagination. The third indication manifests through the alignment of divinely orchestrated connections. When restoration approaches, divine forces don't work solely through circumstances, but also through people. These divinely orchestrated connections represent individuals sent into your life at precisely the right moment for the right purpose. These aren't casual acquaintances, but rather individuals strategically positioned to facilitate movement into the next season of destiny. Such connections don't occur accidentally, but are orchestrated to fulfill specific roles in the journey. When time feels stuck or wasted, people often serve as the instruments for opening doors that cannot be opened independently. These connections may appear as mentors, friends, colleagues, or even complete strangers, but they carry something essential for forward movement, whether wisdom, resources, influence, or simply encouragement. Whatever they possess proves essential for restoration. Biblical examples demonstrate how powerful these connections can be, such as the friendship between two individuals, where one was the son of a king who sought to harm the other. Yet through divine orchestration, this son became the closest friend and protector. Their souls were described as being knit together, with one loving the other as himself. This loyalty and affection weren't merely personal friendship, but rather divinely designed connection meant to protect and secure destiny. Without this help, survival and eventual ascension to power might never have occurred. When divinely orchestrated connections begin aligning, the most pivotal roles are often played by the least expected individuals. These people might not come from usual circles, may arrive from unconsidered places, and bring solutions never imagined. They weren't sought after. Just as unchased opportunities appeared, divine forces bring them at appointed times because the exact need is understood. What proves remarkable about these connections is their mutual benefit. When someone enters life for divine purpose, the relationship extends beyond what they can provide. It's partnership where both parties are being prepared and positioned for greater purpose. This demonstrates how lives are woven together with others to create something more powerful than could be achieved independently. These connections frequently arrive during periods of intense isolation or abandonment. Perhaps the past year brought feelings that nobody understood the struggle, that the journey was walked alone through disappointment. However, when restoration of wasted time approaches, the right people arrive at the right moments to remind you that isolation is an illusion. These connections provide necessary support, encouragement, and partnership for stepping into the next season with confidence. When such alignments occur in life, dismissing them as coincidence would be mistaken. It's the third sign that restoration approaches, with the right people being positioned to help fulfill destiny. These relationships will prove crucial for stepping into restored futures, providing the strength, wisdom, and resources needed to rebuild everything that was lost. The fourth indication arrives as sudden clarity and renewed purpose flooding through heart and mind. After months or perhaps years of feeling lost and uncertain, something shifts fundamentally. Awakening one day reveals that the fog has lifted, confusion that clouded the mind begins dissipating, and for the first time in ages, the divine calling becomes crystal clear. This clarity doesn't emerge from personal effort, but from divine timing, signaling approaching restoration. In many cases, when seasons feel wasted, it's not merely the loss of time or opportunities that weighs heaviest, but rather the loss of direction. Multiple paths may have been attempted, various goals chased, Yet stagnation persists, prompting questions about whether purpose even exists anymore. However, when divine intervention occurs to restore the year, one of the initial actions involves providing fresh vision. Hearts become aligned with divine purpose, and clear pictures emerge of where the next steps lead. This sudden clarity represents a key sign that time thought lost is about to be redeemed. Consider the figure who spent 40 years in wilderness, distant from the purpose once held, until suddenly divine communication came through a burning bush, providing clear and powerful sense of mission. What had been aimless wandering suddenly transformed into divine mission, and the wilderness years were redeemed as part of the greater plan. Sudden clarity isn't merely about knowing the next steps, but understanding why the wasted year was allowed in the first place. When wasted years are restored, revelation often comes that apparent delays were actually preparation. Perceived setbacks were actually setups for greater purpose. This understanding fills individuals with renewed passion and energy to pursue calling with confidence and determination. In this moment of clarity, distractions begin falling away. Things that once consumed time and energy no longer seem important. Focus sharpens and attraction grows toward what truly matters. This is a definitive sign that steps are being aligned with divine will. Connections become visible between past experiences, even painful ones, and the future being approached. It's as if puzzle pieces suddenly fit together, and the bigger picture finally becomes visible. This renewed purpose also carries undeniable urgency. The feeling of wasting time or drifting aimlessly disappears, replaced by sense that the time is now, that movement is happening swiftly to bring about promised restoration. This urgency prompts action, seizing moments and walking boldly in the purpose that has been set. When this sudden clarity and purpose is experienced, recognize it as the fourth sign of restoration. It's not merely about gaining vision, but realigning the heart with perfect divine will. Confusion clears away, divine focus emerges, and propulsion into the next chapter occurs with purpose and passion. Restoration doesn't just recover wasted years, but redeems them for something far greater than ever imagined. The fifth indication occurs when old obstacles mysteriously disappear. This represents profound evidence of divine intervention and restoration. Obstacles that once seemed insurmountable, problems that blocked paths and consumed energy, suddenly begin dissolving or vanishing without apparent explanation. It's as though the very barriers standing in the way are being removed by powers beyond personal capability. When preparation for restoring lost elements occurs, work often happens behind the scenes to clear the path ahead. These obstacles may have seemed permanent, whether financial struggles, relational issues, or professional setbacks. However, when restoration approaches, dismantling of these barriers begins. They disappear not through personal efforts, but through divine grace and timing. Consider the biblical account of massive city walls that represented seemingly impenetrable obstacles. Yet, when trumpet sounds accompanied by shouts occurred, the walls collapsed. They didn't fall through conventional warfare methods, but through direct divine intervention. This dramatic removal of obstacles was a clear sign of divine favor and precursor to taking possession of the land. In personal life, these disappearing obstacles can manifest in various forms. Perhaps long-standing financial troubles suddenly resolved through unexpected opportunities or resources. May be impossible to mend relationships suddenly change dynamics for the better with effortless reconciliation. These occurrences aren't coincidences, but divine acts of restoration. Another aspect involves the relief and freedom that comes when obstacles are removed. Forward movement becomes possible without the weight of these problems holding back progress. Burdens lift, allowing pursuit of goals with renewed energy and focus. This demonstrates not only restoration of what was lost, but also removal of anything that would hinder progress. When old obstacles mysteriously disappear, it signals that way is being made for new opportunities and advancements. It's a clear message that work has been happening on your behalf, aligning circumstances and preparing the way for next steps. The ease with which these obstacles vanish testifies to divine power and reminds that nothing is too difficult for higher forces. When barriers dissolve before your eyes, recognize this as the fifth sign of restoration. It's a divine signal that paths are being cleared and stages are being set for fulfillment of promises. This sign should be embraced with gratitude and faith, knowing that obstacles of the past are being removed to make way for blessings and opportunities that lie ahead. The sixth indication manifests as remarkable restoration of lost time and resources. When readiness for restoration arrives, replacement of what was lost doesn't simply occur. Instead, multiplication happens. Time thought wasted and resources that seemed irretrievably lost aren't just returned, but given back in abundance, exceeding all expectations. This restoration isn't merely return to previous positions, but elevation to where destiny intended. Restoration of lost time and resources represents profound demonstration of the ability to redeem what seemed permanently gone. Years may have been spent in struggle or stagnation, believing that invested time and energy were in vain. However, when intervention occurs, revelation comes that no time is truly wasted when surrendered to divine will. Power exists to bring about restoration that not only compensates for losses but also accelerates progress. Consider the biblical figure who experienced unimaginable loss of wealth, health, and even children. Yet after enduring intense suffering while maintaining faith, restoration came with twice as much as before. This wasn't simple restoration of lost elements, but blessing beyond, demonstrating how restoration can exceed what was lost. The principle stands clear. Restoration doesn't just return what was lost, but blesses beyond anticipation. Restoration of time and resources is often accompanied by sudden acceleration in achievements and productivity. Opportunities and advancements, once seemingly out of reach, now come effortlessly. Resources previously scarce suddenly become abundant. This demonstrates that restoration isn't limited by human constraints. When it occurs, it happens with divine generosity and abundance. Moreover, this restoration often involves not just financial or material resources, but also relational and emotional healing. Relationships strained or lost during wasted periods begin mending, and emotional wounds heal. Divine restoration is holistic, touching every area of life where loss was experienced. This comprehensive restoration testifies to power and love. Another important aspect involves the new level of wisdom and understanding that accompanies restoration. As lost time and resources are restored, insights and lessons learned from previous experiences are also provided. This wisdom enables more effective management of restored blessings and helps avoid pitfalls that led to past losses. When restoration of lost time and resources begins appearing, recognize it as the sixth sign of divine restoration. It's not merely about recovering what was lost, but about receiving multiplied and accelerated blessings that propel into new seasons of fulfillment and success. This sign should be embraced with faith and gratitude, knowing that restoration is abundant and far exceeds what could have been imagined, with wasted years being transformed into times of unparalleled blessing and growth. The seventh and final indication manifests as profound and unmistakable sense of divine timing. This represents deep inner knowing that the season of restoration isn't just imminent, but that it is precisely the right time for unfolding. It's as if everything in life aligns perfectly with the perfect plan, and revelation comes that every moment of waiting, every period of delay was meticulously orchestrated for this precise moment. Divine timing isn't about human schedules or plans, but about perfect alignment of events and circumstances. When preparation for restoring wasted years occurs, action doesn't happen hastily. Instead, work proceeds according to an eternal timetable, which is always precise and flawless. Years may have been spent feeling as though waiting was in vain, but divine timing reveals that every delay, every period of stagnation, was part of meticulous planning to bring about greater good. A powerful biblical illustration involves an orphaned girl who became queen. Her rise to prominence seemed like a series of fortunate events, but it was all part of perfect timing. When her people faced threat of annihilation, she was positioned to make pivotal moves. The question posed to her was whether she had come to her royal position for such a time as this, highlighting how seemingly random circumstances and delays were actually part of divine timing, positioning her for critical roles. When deep sense of divine timing is experienced, everything starts falling into place with remarkable ease. Opportunities once thought out of reach are suddenly within grasp. Strained or distant relationships begin reconciling. Needed resources appear exactly when needed. This perfect alignment isn't coincidental, but results from careful planning and timing. Furthermore, this sense of divine timing brings profound peace and confidence. Understanding develops that waiting wasn't wasted, but instead was a period of preparation and positioning. This realization helps trust in the plan and move forward with assurance. Knowing that work has been happening behind the scenes all along, it's divine assurance that what is being stepped into is exactly what was meant for, and the timing is perfect. Another aspect of divine timing is that it often comes with renewed sense of urgency and purpose. Once perception arrives that time for restoration has come, compelling drive emerges to act, to seize the moment, and to pursue calling with renewed vigor. This sense of urgency isn't about rushing or forcing things, but about recognizing and stepping into the moment that has been prepared. When this deep sense of divine timing is experienced, recognize it as the seventh sign of restoration. It's a clear message that the plan is coming to fruition and time for restoration is now. This moment should be embraced with faith and gratitude, knowing that waiting has been worthwhile and that perfect timing is setting the stage for a season of unprecedented blessing and fulfillment, with wasted years being transformed into powerful testimony of divine timing and restoration. As this message concludes, remember that signs of restoration aren't random occurrences, but divine indicators that work is happening to bring about profound transformation. From unexplainable peace amid chaos to opportunities opening effortlessly, divine connections aligning, and sudden clarity emerging, each sign points to the fact that what was lost is about to be restored and even exceed expectations. The removal of old obstacles, restoration of lost time and resources, and deep sense of divine timing all affirm that seasons of waiting have not been in vain. The plan is unfolding perfectly, and preparation is happening to bless beyond measure. May you step forward with hope and anticipation for the incredible restoration that lies ahead.